Long before maps were inked and kingdoms had names, the land was ruled by something not of this world. It was said Vorrath had fallen from the sky like a burning star, carving a crater that became the highest mountain in the region. The creatures. Arrival scorched forests, oiled rivers, and turned the soil black. Those who survived called it a god, not a benevolent one, but a god of hunger, of endless taking. For centuries, tribes brought it sacrifices, cattle, grain, even people, to keep its wrath contained. Yet the more they fed it, the more it desired. Vorrath's appetite was not born of need, but of dominance. Every offering was just proof that they were beneath it. Eventually, the tribes united, led by a warrior priestess named Saria, who carried a blade forged from meteoric iron. Its edge sharper than the wind that cut mountaintops. The battle lasted 13 days. Villages burned, entire rivers evaporated, under the heat of the beast's breath. But on the dawn of the 14th day, Saria struck the final blow, piercing a scale at the beast's chest, not killing it, but forcing it into a deep, unnatural sleep. The tribe sealed it in the crater's heart, covering the entrance with black stone slabs carved with runes of binding. They called the seal the Breathless Gate, and they swore the beast would never wake again 100 years past. Forests grew over forgotten battlegrounds. Cities rose where tribes had once lived. Vorrath became a story told by firelight, a tale to frighten children down at the foot of the Black Hollow Mountains. A mining company moved in, armed with steel drills and explosives. They weren't looking for trouble. They were looking for rare metals buried deep in the mountain's veins. On the 42nd day of the dig, the foreman's team reached an unusual layer, a wall of black stone smoother than any natural formation. Silver-like veins ran across its surface, forming swirling patterns. Some of the men thought it beautiful. Others felt uneasy, as though they had stumbled onto something they weren't meant to touch. The foreman ignored the unease. Orders were orders. When the drill bit struck the stone, a deafening crack echoed through the tunnels. The veins of silver glowed, and a gust of freezing air rushed out, extinguishing lamps. One worker, startled, stumbled and cut his arm. Blood dripped onto the glowing runes. The air changed. Somewhere deep in the dark, something shifted, a sound like massive chains sliding across stone. The ground shuddered. Men screamed, and far below, 2 burning eyes opened. The mountain trembled as Vorrath unfurled itself from centuries of stillness. Its massive form was coiled like a serpent, its body a grotesque combination of dragon-like scales, armored bone plates, and sinewy muscle that rippled with every movement. Its claws were hooked like scythes, each large enough to shear through a tree. Its maw opened, rows of teeth glistening, a furnace of molten heat glowing deep within. Its throat. The beast exhaled, and the tunnels became an oven. Stone blackened and sagged. Men dropped their tools, some collapsing before they could run. Vorrath clawed its way upward, each movement accompanied by the grinding roar of rock splitting apart. When it emerged under the moonlight, the sky seemed to bow to it, clouds scattering as if unwilling to be near. It remembered Hunger Chapter 3, the first night of terror by dawn. 2 mountain villages had vanished. Survivors from the edges of the destruction spoke of a roar that split the night, of heat that turned soil to glass, and shadows moving faster than the eye could track. Cattle were gone, homes flattened. The earth bore gouges deep enough for a man to lie in the nearby city of Marrow's Gate. Fear began to spread. Most dismissed the reports as exaggeration until the smell of burning reached the city walls. Among the frightened was Alara Vey, a historian who specialized in ancient myths. She recognized the name whispered by fleeing villagers, Vorrath. The name had been absent from common speech for generations. but she had seen it etched in brittle scrolls. She knew two things. Vorrath could not be killed, and the only thing that had ever subdued it was the breathless gate. But the gate was gone. Determined to find a way to stop the beast, Alara sought the last living descendant of Seria's bloodline, a quiet, battle-worn man named Kale. He lived alone in the ruins of the old tribal capital, guarding a relic blade mounted above his hearth. The blade was dull now, its once bright metal pitted and lifeless. But Alara knew what it was, the meteor-forged weapon that had once pierced Vorrath's heart. Kale revealed the truth. The blade's power was dormant, and could only be reawakened by absorbing the breath of the beast itself. Doing so would mean standing before Vorrath's fire and surviving it. Most who tried would be reduced to ash. For 3 days, Kale and a band of hunters tracked Vorrath by the trail of destruction it left behind. Whole forests were reduced to black stumps, rivers boiled, wildlife fled in unnatural silence. Vorrath didn't always kill what it caught. Sometimes it simply crushed life underfoot. As though testing its own strength. At night, the hunters heard it moving, a distant rhythm of heavy footfalls and the occasional deep, guttural growl that made the air vibrate in their lungs. On the 4th night, they found it by the ruins of an old fortress. The beast was feeding on the remains of a fallen mountain ox, its body lit by the flames in its throat. Kale stepped forward. The air was like breathing inside a forge. Vorrath's head lifted, molten eyes locking onto him. Then it roared. Kale did not run. As the wave of fire surged toward him, he lifted the blade high, letting the inferno engulf it. Heat seared his arms, blistering skin, but he held on. The blade glowed white-hot, its edges shimmering as though alive. Vorrath lunged, but Kale rolled aside, slicing at the thick tendons of its foreleg. The beast bellowed in pain, not wounded enough to fall, but slowed. The hunters rained arrows tipped with shards of volcanic glass, aiming for the softer flesh beneath its scales. The distraction bought Kale the moment he needed. With a final cry, he drove the blade into the small gap beneath the beast's chest plate, the same place Seria had struck a century before. Epilogue: the second sleep Vorrath convulsed, its roar shaking the mountains. Instead of collapsing, it began to sink into the earth, pulled down by unseen forces. The ground closed over it, sealing like cooling lava. The runes of the breathless gate burned bright, then dimmed, returning to silence. Kale dropped the blade, too weak to stand. Alara knew they had only bought time. A century at most. The beast would dream again. And when it woke, the world might not be ready.